Oh my goodness, I put my hand in front of my camera and I turned it on. And then I adjusted it with my hand in front of the camera. I am so sorry, everyone. I am so unprofessional. Yes, I am. Because this is a hobby and people can be unprofessional sometimes because it's fun. I suffer from the Asperger's sometimes, so it's I get a little obsessive. My boss tells me I need to be less obsessive. So when it comes to hobbies, I always have to try to work towards being less obsessive. Uh, People have made requests inquiring that I prove something to them and give my quick thoughts on certain things. Well, I will definitely say, I do quite a few voices, and as you can see, I have some range. Well, I could say, this is the new module. Oh, for your first edition OSR games. It was developed by Vincent the Evil Dame Florio. It's called the Cult of Abandon. It's quite easy to accidentally type in curse when you type in cult because autocorrect sometimes does that. And I'm mildly dyslexic, and I now have a problem with my phone when I try to type in certain words that will always give me the misspelled version because I typed in the misspelled version so many times it thinks it's the actual spelling for the word now. But anyways, this is developed by Vincent the Evil TM Florio. Yes, indeed. And it is an adventure for levels 1 to 2. I didn't have taken the opportunity to run people through this yet. The artwork is quite simple, old school, you can say. I had my copy signed by Ernie. Yes, indeed, when I stopped over by TSR Con. He was such a jolly fellow, telling stories of the olden days. The artwork is quite simple, but to the point. It's not overly over the top. In the case of the villages are slightly bigger than the minimum, but it's not so expansive that it results in, how do you say, 50,000 houses that you do not have any information for, but people start asking questions. What's this house? What's that house? What can I find in that house? So, quite simply, sometimes I've run into a situation with various DMs where they will make a city the size of Milwaukee or Chicago. And by the way, I just gave away that I live in the Midwest, in the holy land and of Dungeons and Dragons, no less. Okay, I live within a 40-minute drive of the Dungeon Hobby Shop. But as you can see, there is enough houses in here, enough buildings to meet your basic needs. It's all listed out in the module. It's numbered too. And then there's also a few extra buildings here and there. And there's also a sufficient amount of space spread around. So if you wanted to take this image and, say, scan it into your computer, put a few more houses in, and you have more houses. And you don't have to move stuff. It's simple like that. Yes. There's a nice scenery. Simple sketch drawing. I used to do stuff like that back in high school. My wrist is, I broke my wrist, so. Yes, indeed. The module is quite simple. As Ernie Gygax and I personally agree that it's a little on the linear side. Not railroady, but linear. There is some nice handy-dandy charts in this book, given over multiple days, depending on various conditions and side effects. Some interesting locations marked out in here. Various characters. Little seeds for mini quests in the book. That is handy dandy. And also gives you a basic idea and a bit of experience for your party. So when you're playing through the adventure, you know that this is an idea for a quest that fits thematically into the module, but it doesn't tell you every single step. It just gives you the basic setup and the reward, and you, as the DM or GM, whichever term you want to use, can do so as you wish. You can make it a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. You can add a few flourishes, add in details from your main campaign. It's just that simple. It's called creativity. Sorry about that. I grew up poor, so there's some handy dandy. There's more charts. There's like a 1d6 rumor table here. It's nice. A few characters, simplified stats in line with classic OSR conventions. There's simple GM notes stating chances of certain events happening. A little list of various types of items, like a dagger, silver bladed, or silver bladed dagger. I would have stated it the other way around, but a dagger, standard blade, small shield, chainmail, iron spikes, horseshoes, gives you prices, how many in the quantity, some nice basic artwork for buildings to get you the mood as to what you are going to be seeing. Some artwork of some of the hostels. I do not want to use the word monsters. I don't want to use the term people. People can be monsters. Monsters can be people. If you look back into some of the classic modules that Gary Gygax wrote and made, you go into a certain place, you run into a bugbear. He could be a good guy. He's a little chaotic, but he's good. And then the guy, the normal human that's in the next cell over, is the psychopath that will stab you to death in 5 seconds when you turn your back. It's in modules, trust me. Gary Gygax was not absolutist in whether monsters or people were good or bad. There was just this potential range, and there was always individuals inside and outside of those groups. It was a culture thing. It was also useful for story conventions and ease of training people into playing. Also, ease of expecting and setting up twists in stories. And yeah. Another village, another really simple drawing. It's simple enough that you could add details. It gives you all the essentials, the basic idea, and there's enough buildings with numbers that are tied to actual things. And then there's also a fair amount of buildings that have no numbers that you could repurpose for other things. And that is nice and handy dandy. And there's also enough room on there. You could put more buildings. You could put forests, rocks, mountains, sand, a dump for your artificer gnome. My current 5th edition campaign, I'm playing one of my current DMs, and I'm playing an artificer gnome, and now he has to re-engineer all his massive cities he's spent weeks drawing to include dumps, because my artificer gnome likes to go dumpster diving. He's gone so far as even just say they throw their stuff in the ocean and tried to get me off of going to the dump. It's fun. So there's more mini quests here and there. There's in fact 2 towns in this module. It continues on and it continues on. And there's a cult in this book, and it's called the Cult of Abandon. And work makes perfectly sense. Now, my personal thoughts is when people, when the Dungeon Hobby Shop posted a thing that said, as I said earlier, that it was the curse of abandon. Yeah, I'm trying to read it backwards, and it's fun with dyslexia. Sometimes you gain that magical superpower where you can read words upside down, backwards, and forwards. from any direction, and then sometimes it just magically fails. I actually figured out how to spell words in the past few years, or by imagining them 3D, because one day I saw someone post online that people with dyslexia, the reason why they have a hard time visualizing letters is because sometimes their brain will process in 3 dimension. So when you have a D or an L, an L, there's no other letter that's reverse of an L. When you have a P, a Q, a D, a B, or any letter that is a reverse of another letter in its lowercase, it's actually easier to remember which direction it's facing if you remember it in a form in 3 dimensions on purpose. Try to remember flat as just a regular line drawing, and it's like, I can't remember if this is supposed to be a D or a B. But anyways, it's a nice little module. They have a handy dandy meter on the backside to tell you how spicy it is. Just like TSR Hobbies. There's a nice little section of notes in the back. I was talking about going back to the name Curse of Abandon. That would actually be a really good sequel module to this, and I have sneaking suspicion that is most probably the actual name of the sequel module to this. The Curse of Abandon. You dealt with the cult of abandon. Now deal with the curse. Well, thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed me being me and showing off a bit of OSR or first edition era or replication of I do not know how to phrase that exactly. It's OSR. It's a variant of OSR replicating first edition AD&D, which is actually not really first edition. It's actually second edition. First edition is OD&D, and basic is OD&D 1.1. And then that's the BX variant, and then there's the BECME, and then there's the BECME updated one, which is like you have multiple editions of first, and then like 0.5 for OD&D, first edition for BECME, BX. Maybe BECME is 1.5 edition. It's weirdly existing parallel to AD&D, which is second edition, and second edition AD&D is actually third edition, which is really funny considering that in this book, in this book, they literally have a note that says this is not third edition, but it is. It's actually probably 3.5 edition. Because this book, oh my goodness, I picked it down because this book is actually 2.5 of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons first edition, but it's actually the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2.5 edition. Dungeons & Dragons 2.5 edition. Explaining the insane numbering system of Dungeons & Dragons and making it into something slightly more understandable, but yet failing at that terribly because I have ADHD, dyslexia, bit of Asperger's, and some other issues. But anyways, I think you enjoyed this video, maybe a bit better than my video gaming videos and my movie videos and my other stuff, because I actually put a bit more effort into being more energetic and entertaining in these videos, and I'm going to go forward trying to make my tabletop gaming channel a bit more whimsical and energetic because tabletop games have a fair amount of acting tied into them and character. And I'm going to play up my character a little bit more in these things. As I said, this channel will be largely covering everything and anything in tabletop role-playing games, anything and everything I can get into on wargaming, card games. I have Magic the Gathering. I played Magic the Gathering. I played Pokemon. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I played the old Dragon Ball Z game back from the 90s. I played Digimon from the 90s. They got a new Digimon now. Wow. They got a new Digimon card game, and they also have a new Dragon Ball Z / Super card game. So I'm interested in that stuff. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for stopping by yet again. Oh yeah, I'm also going to cover Pathfinder 1st and 2nd edition, as well as Call of Cthulhu, Rune Quest, which is hiding over there, The Dark Eye, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition, and many more TTRPGs and war games. But I'll probably be focusing more on the semi-modern tabletop role-playing games, because that's the era I came in on, is like the 3.5. Well, the back end of Advanced was when I started getting interested into the lore of Dungeons and Dragons, and then I only really started playing later on from that. I got more and more. I back in grade school, I read the monster manuals for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in 2nd edition, and Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, 3rd edition and 3.5. And then from there on, I got into watching and reading more lore on those game systems and settings, and looking at other gaming systems such as Warhammer 40K and stuff like that. Found it all interesting. And then truly in like the past 7 years, I've actually made a point of actually moving into playing in tabletop games more regularly. I used to be, prior to that, be nothing but like video games like Nintendo and PlayStation, and I have some Sega stuff and stuff like that. So if you are interested in video games, I have another channel with that, with well over 1,400 plus videos. Actually should be like a 3,000 or 5,000 videos if I kept producing videos at the rate I was producing. But unlike most people, when COVID or the COOF happened, me being the highest skilled person at my workplace has actually resulted in me having to spend more time working at my workplace and putting more energy and effort into stuff, while other people got laid off because they were just useless slackers, or they were just simply people who rather take government money and do nothing than work for their money in an honorable manner and earn it. We're in a world full of takers now. It is sad. And sorry I went political twice in this video. I digress. So thank you very much for watching, and have a nice time.